The member for Oshawa has given notice of dissatisfaction with the answer to a question given by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The member has up to 5 minutes to debate the matter, and a minister or parliamentary assistant may reply for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. In 2010, the voters of Durham Region voted in a referendum to stop having appointed regional chairs and voted overwhelmingly to elect them. That was in a referendum. In 2014, we elected Roger Anderson, 2018, and again in 2022, Regional Chair John Henry. We voted for them to be the head of Regional Council. Now this Minister and Premier have introduced a law that basically says they don't care what we voted for. Their new law will allow them to fire the chairs in Durham, Waterloo and Niagara and pick their own puppet chairs who will answer only to them. When I was first elected to serve in Oshawa in 2014, I had the opportunity to serve alongside then Mayor John Henry. John was always kind and thoughtful and fair and interested in the story of Oshawa and its people. I was grateful to work with him. Whatever anyone thinks of his politics, they think a lot of him. Lefties think he's conservative. Conservatives think he's too much of a progressive. But from my vantage point, he has always been a principled, community-minded politician and neighbour. When we haven't agreed on issues, he has said to me, "Jennifer, it's just politics. We can still have coffee." And I want to thank him for his many years of public service. Speaker, John Henry is in effect being fired. Now, the minister takes exception to my use of that word, but he ran in an election for a position that this government has now said he cannot run for because that job is no longer there. The job of regional chair has been to represent the community, and now it will be to represent the interests of this government because it will be appointed. And working for the minister is not working for the electorate. That is not the same job. The minister told us, though, that John Henry could apply for the job. Speaker, if they're getting rid of him, why would they want him to apply, or any other chair? And, Speaker, even you could apply for the job, but you know what? It doesn't matter who applies. It matters who they choose to appoint. And chances are it will be party faithful, maybe a bootlicker, maybe a lovely person, but it will be someone who will take orders. Speaker, in 2010, Durham Region held a referendum to stop appointing, start electing. That is what we chose, and this government and 6 of my colleagues who represent Durham Region know that the electorate chose to do that, and they are saying they know best. This father knows best nonsense, I don't have patience for. But this unelected chair would gain so-called strong mayor powers, giving the Ford government's hand-picked appointee the power to set regional budgets, hire and fire the regional administrator and other top staffers, and pass bylaws with the support of just 1/3 of council. The minister can also make regulations that establish a weighted voting system for any upper-tier municipal council. So a council member, or even the chair, possibly, could get more votes than others. The minister may pass a weighted voting regulation for any upper-tier municipality. Votes could be weighted based on anything the minister chooses. So whatever story they're telling us about how they'll use it, that's not in the power is in the legislation. The purpose is up to us to figure out, I guess. But there are 7 Durham Region MPPs, 7 of us. One of us is responsible for a $500 billion debt. And likely that individual is looking forward to having unfettered, unrestricted access to the budgets of the region, and access without permission to pick the property tax pockets of all regional taxpayers. And there's nothing voters can do. This government carries the banner that says, "We don't raise taxes." But if they can control the lion's share of what it says on our property tax bill, if they can control regional budgets, that's a lot of power, and I can imagine that they would want it. And an elected chair is only in the way because an elected chair represents the people and not the premier. So if this passes, an unelected appointee will control the budget. This is taxation without representation. If you live in one of those regions, you don't get to elect the head of your regional council directly or indirectly. You don't get a say in the decisions that they make. The minister said that this will be an open process for vetting. So instead of allowing the entire electorate to vet and elect or reject someone, it's going to be up to what? The minister, the premier, party brass to vet? The last time that they vetted someone was Bob Gale. How well did that vetting process work? Speaker, we're seeing an attack on democracy.
I recognize the member for Whitby.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to thank the member for Oshawa for this chance to speak to the work our government is doing to enhance regional governance for the people of Ontario, while also correcting some misconceptions the member seems to hold about the content of the bill. Let's be absolutely clear. Every single person who is elected to a term of office will serve until the end of that term of office. When a person is fired, as a member opposite alleges, that person is removed from their position. No such thing is taking place. In fact, there is no mechanism to remove a currently serving regional chair this term at all. What the member opposite is alleging is, quite frankly, impossible and not based in fact. What this bill does do is align the regional municipality of Durham with the same system that currently works in both Peel Region and York. Regions, Speaker, that account for 50% of all those living in an impacted region. It does this at the beginning of the new council term, once again, not during the current one. In fact, Bill 100 merely realigns the regional chair selection process with how they operated for the vast majority of their history. To illustrate this, let's look at the history of regional government in Durham and Ontario broadly. Regional government was brought to Ontario in the 1970s to help facilitate the implementation of critical infrastructure and to provide coordination. This is a very key aspect, Speaker. Regional government does not supersede local government. It supports it. It's why the appointment of a chair was envisioned, to support and facilitate the democratically elected local leaders, to coordinate and facilitate work between the various municipalities. During this time, no chair was elected. In fact, the first election for a regional chair would not take place until the 1990s, years later. Durham, even later, in fact, Roger Anderson became elected chair for the first time in 2014. I remember I was sitting on that regional council where I served for 7 years. But this wasn't his first time as chair, Speaker. He had been an appointed chair for over 21 years before then. The system works. It worked for decades across the regions. It works in Durham, and it's currently working in York and Peel. Our government will not apologize for advancing policies that streamline approvals, clarify responsibilities, and support the people we serve. These positions are about service, public service. They are not the fiefdom of any one person. Regions have a single job to do: coordinate with the local leadership within the municipalities to advance critical projects to better the lives of their constituents, hard-working families in the region of Durham. Speaker, these changes contained in Bill 100 will do exactly that. Thank you, Speaker.